This video is brought to you by Against the Flow of Mississippi. Against the Flow of Mississippi is a book about Jake Fayard, a Marine veteran who is unhappy with the political machine running the state of Mississippi. He decides to fight the corruption from the inside. Jake will face more challenges than he ever has and will stand up for what he thinks is right. His notoriously hot temper will push him to the edge of murder, along with his friend and brother Kobe Barhanovich. Together, they will fight the system and give the power back to the citizens of Mississippi. Against the Flow of Mississippi is now available on Amazon. A link to the book will be placed in the description below.
All right, y'all. So I wanted to respond to Paul Tisdale. Mr. Tisdale, all due respect, sir, you've served the city well for years. I think you've had pretty much a lifetime of service to the city of Biloxi, and I want to let you know from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you. You've been important in the education system. You've been a great councilman. Some things you've done I may not have always agreed with, but on this, sir, I've got to respond to you. And I'm going to give my thoughts on what should happen with cruising the coast. We're going to go through this line by line. So here we go.
Engaging, enlightening, informative. This is WLOX News This Week.
Hi, thanks for joining us. I'm Dave Elliott. We're going to start with Biloxi, looking at huge events like Cruising the Coast, Scraping the Coast, Black Spring Break, just a little safer. Biloxi leaders looking at strengthening its requirements for special events. Biloxi Councilman Paul Tisdale is right here, right now. Councilman, good to see you, and thanks for being with us. We certainly do appreciate it.
Good to see you again, David.
You know, the city is grappling with creating kind of a set of rules, regulations, ordinances, guidelines to deal with these big events. But if you look at Cruising the Coast, Scraping the Coast, Jeeping the Coast, Black Spring Break, Mardi Gras, they're all so unique. So how could you come up with kind of a one-size-fits-all set of rules?
Well, it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all set of rules. What this special events proposed ordinance does is look at the size of the event, and then there are some basic procedural issues that have to be, I guess, worked through with city leaders. And then it would determine, when to schedule those, what the logistics are, how many officers we need, because currently there are, you think of the big events that you mentioned, but there are a lot of small events that require anywhere from 2 to 6 officers at any given time.
So would the rules change then?
Okay. So is there not an ordinance? I didn't know if there was or wasn't any ordinances governing these special events. Let me just go ahead and tell y'all my problem with every one of these. Cruising the Coast, Scraping the Coast, Jeeping the Coast, Black Spring Break, whatever. These are my grievances with them and why I think they need to stop, I don't know, now. My grievances are, I'm a local. I'm from here. I've been here most of my life. Out of 39 years of living, I would say 35 of it has been spent here. Well, 34 of it, we'll be fair and say about 34 years has been spent here on the Mississippi coast. Certainly the first 30 of it at least. And then I've been back for a couple of years. So when you have these people that come down here that ain't from here, that block up the roads and impede traffic, not caring that there are people that actually live here who have to do things like go to work, take care of our family, take care of our responsibilities, that's a problem. It's an unnecessary inconvenience and a burden that we really can't afford, number one. Number two, we don't have the infrastructure for it. Every one of these events take place on Highway 90. I did an interview, or I did a show with Jeff Howard the other night where I pointed out that, and this is not going to be near as long as that was, because that was like an hour and a half. I pointed out that there is only one major artery that runs through every city on the coast, from Bay St. Louis all the way to Pascagoula, well, from Waveland to Pascagoula and Moss Point, and that is Highway 90. I commute to Pascagoula every day to go to work. Luckily, I'm able to leave shortly before 3 o'clock in the morning and get to work by 4. So I don't really have to deal with it going to work. But coming home, I'm tired after an 8-hour shift. I would like to come home, and maybe I have things that I would like to do. But when you clog up the roads with these events, that hurts me. We don't have the infrastructure for it. The only other corridor is I-10. That's one. It needs to stop. And it needs to stop now. That's argument number one. Continuing.
What's the point where it becomes a big event?
Well, a big event is going to require more, I hate to say paperwork, documentation, but basically that's it.
From the organizers or the promoters or whoever they happen to be?
Whoever's accountable for that event is going to have to fill out the paperwork associated with that event. You know, the big events typically do a very good job. The one event that we've had really some safety issues with, obviously, is spring break. And the difficulty there is that you're not dealing with one or two organizers. It's all basically social media driven.
Yeah. And one might argue.
Okay, I have said since the year 2000, when we had our first Black Spring Break, and I don't care what color spring break it is, black spring break, green spring break, white spring break, orange spring break, it doesn't matter. I know we're calling it spring break now, but we all know that traditionally, for the last 20 plus years, it's been called Black Spring Break. And Black Spring Break started off as Freaknik, which started off in Atlanta. They kicked them out of Atlanta. They decided to come down here. They came down here that first year, and oh my God, what a disaster that was. Rampant crime, unchecked. The police department was told not to arrest anybody. It was a big mess. It was a disaster. 2001, they cracked down a whole lot more from the first one, which was a free-for-all. And then they've cracked down ever since then, which is good. But we still have people out here getting shot. We had a police officer get shot. Can we just agree that that event needs to go away? I'm sorry, but if we have a police officer who is having to get hot lead shoved into him by a felon, I think it's time to cancel that event. And this is not an isolated incident. This happens. Somebody has some sort of violence happen to them on a regular basis. Can we get rid of that one, please? That would be great. Thank you. Much like cruising the coast, where you got these idiots that do burnouts and lose control of their vehicle and cause property or personal damage, hurt people. That needs to go too. All right, continuing.
For better or worse, that's just kind of the nature of that event and that younger demographic, to have a more random event. Do we expect to see anything come out concrete in the next few months?
Well, I would hope, since this was first presented to council for a first reading in May, we've had 3 workshops since then. It's been tabled twice, and I'm hopeful that it's going to be on our last meeting, our last council meeting agenda in October. That's going to be the 24th. And I would hope that we would act on this bundle of resolutions. There's 5 or 6, all related in some way to special events.
Yeah. Now that's Biloxi, but a lot of this stuff, Biloxi's the epicenter. But I mean, what about other cities getting on board, maybe working together county-wide to come up with some kind of plan?
Well,
We are one coast, if you listen to a lot of folks.
well, some folks think we're one coast almost.
That's what I think.
Okay, and at times I think it's possible, but I think whoever's putting on the event needs to coordinate with the different cities.
Yeah.
I know we don't all have the same rules and regs. My experience with my ward in West Biloxi, which is roughly from Beauvoir to DeBees Road, right in that area, we have a lot of impact from cruising the coast, as most folks do, up and down the 3 coastal counties, but also spring break, scraping the coast. It presents some real challenges for the residents.
Now, you brought up Black Spring Break shootings this year, which really kind of led to renewed interest in discussing this. But then cruising the coast this week, last Sunday, incident with drag racing on Highway 97 injured. Monday in the Edgewater Mall parking lot, a guy doing donuts, he's been charged with manslaughter, a fatality in that one. Chief John Miller spoke to the council this week. What did he say about that?
A couple of things. I think he stressed several things, 2 or 3 things. One is we really have only one ordinance on the book right now, and it's very dated, and it deals with parades.
I believe I just said something about that. Reckless driving, drag racing. Here's another problem I have with these events. Again, I am of the opinion that I grew here, you flew here, so if I got to follow the rules, you should too. If I go down driving 90-0, drag racing, spinning my tires, which I drive, you know what? I almost drive a classic. So maybe I should be able to get away with it too. You know, maybe I should take my 2004 Cadillac DeVille, go down Highway 90 and run at triple digits just to see what I can get away with. I guarantee you, well, I probably won't be arrested because, you know, Soy Boy Troy doesn't want to lock anybody up, but that's beside the point. But I'll more than likely at least get a hell of a few tickets. When somebody comes out here and they tear up our roads, and when you do burnouts, you're causing damage to our roads. We paid for those roads, the ones that live here and pay taxes. The ones that come down here from out of state with their souped up cars, and they want to come down here like they're Mario Andretti. Yeah, it needs to stop. If I would get penalized for it, you should get penalized for it. That's the way it works. If it doesn't work that way, then what's the point of having the rules? Are we going to say that for 51 weeks out of the year we're going to enforce the law? But, hey, you know what? Cruising the coast, y'all go ahead. It's a free-for-all down here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Because that's what I personally am seeing. I'm sorry those people got hurt. I'm sorry that person got killed. I hate that it happened. But it was preventable. 100% preventable. And it's on the cities, every one of them on the coast, not just Biloxi, not just Gulfport, not just Long Beach, not just past Christiane, not just Waveland, not just Bay St. Louis, not just Ocean Springs, not just Goshen, not just Pascagoula, not just Moss Point, D'Iberville. It's collectively, and all 3 counties need to step up and say, we're not accepting this. This is unacceptable. If you can't control the participants to your events, you will not have them here. You will absolutely not be welcome on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and you shouldn't be if you're not going to follow our rules. These are our rules that we have to follow as society, as people who live here. We should expect and demand visitors to this area to follow those same rules. I don't care what event you spin on it. I don't care that over 10,000 cars came by and entered into cruising the coast. I don't care how many millions of dollars allegedly was pumped into our local economy. Personally, I think that's a lie anyway. I don't see that happening. Enforce the rules equally or throw them out. Take your pick.
That's it, parades. Well, these aren't parades. Over the years, we've not kept up with ordinances that would help support police in taking care of the public safety. The other thing is that we could use more law enforcement officers, more sworn officers, and currently we have 10 vacancies, and if we had if we filled those and had another 10 law enforcement officers that wanted to come to work for us, we'd hire them tomorrow. So we need more law enforcement officers, and
we need people who.
Yeah, that's a big problem too. We don't have enough cops out here to enforce the rules. That kind of goes back to that whole infrastructure thing I was talking about. I kind of wrap up first responders into our infrastructure down here. If we don't have enough people to do it safely, we shouldn't have enough, or we shouldn't be having these events to where we have these issues. We don't have enough law enforcement, EMS, first responders to do these jobs to safely carry these events the way they need to be carried. Therefore, another argument for stopping the events until we are better situated for it.
Who are here. Again, there are so many people here, and I just brought up 2 incidences with Cruising the Coast. We need people to be more responsible too. And it's hard to control that, but we appeal to everybody who comes for these events to do that. You talked about these RVs and these campers on commercial property, on residential property, and that's like the wild, wild west from what I've seen. Is there anything governing the rules on that?
Very, very little. And let me read this, I want to get it right. What's proposed for a recreational vehicle park. Any parcel or tract of land wherein 2 or more recreational vehicles are occupied for dwelling or sleeping purposes by rent or lease shall be considered a recreational vehicle park. That's the first thing.
2 or more?
2 or more.
Well, I see 20 on a lot.
That's because there's no ordinance governing that right now.
But what's the difference between residential and commercial in terms of liability and everything else, and the insurance that might be required?
Well, when you look, and I'm thinking particularly tied to these big events, take Cruising the Coast. It's great to have a lot of people here. My perception may not be accurate, but it seems like there are a lot more RVs coming down for these events, particularly Cruising the Coast. And they're larger RVs, and they fill up these lots quickly. Well, number one, I don't know if some of these parcel owners even know if the RVs are there on their property. The second thing is
if I was a property owner, I would know, but if they're from California or someplace, they may not know.
Right, and a lot of these property owners aren't here on the coast. The other thing is, you may remember several years ago, we had a tropical storm come in. And how do you notify some of these folks? You think they'd watch the news, watch TV, stay informed, and some of them do. But then if everybody's picking up and leaving at the same time, that's a logistical issue for the police.
I know it's kind of part of the classic car culture, this whole RV. I find, just from an aesthetic, as a person who likes pretty things, the tents, the RVs, and the campers don't really appeal to me as I drive up and down Highway 90. But taste is in the eye of the beholder.
Well, I think of Cruising the Coast really as art on wheels. I'm not an automotive guy. Don't give me a tool, I'd hurt somebody. But I love watching these gorgeous vehicles that have been restored, the paint jobs and everything. I've been an RV owner. I understand the challenges. But I'm like you. When I drive down Highway 90, I'm not looking at the RVs and the tents on the side. I'm looking
Yeah.
at vehicles that
I don't really like them,
catch
and
my
I don't know
eye.
what we can do about it. Very quickly, Councilman Tisdale, because we're almost out of time. Your fellow Councilman Robert Deming facing.
I cut that last part out right there because I'm not going to cloud this issue with what's going on with Robert Deming. I wish him well. Hope he's not guilty of what they said he did, but if he is guilty, justice has to be served. So I did cut that out because I don't want to get into that mess. That being said, as far as the RVs goes, if I can't buy a piece of property, which you can find lots in Biloxi, especially on the point, cheap now. I can go buy a lot over there. I saw one the other day. I want to say it was around Richmond Street, Claiborne Avenue, or Claiborne Street. Lots in that area that where houses used to be, I could go buy them for just a few $1,000s. Okay? If I can't park a camper full time there and live on it, why are we allowing it for 1 week out of the year if it's in violation of city ordinances? That's number one. Number two, why aren't we holding these property owners accountable for what's going on their property? Okay, I understand. A lot of these properties up and down the beach, a lot of these big open empty fields are investment properties that somebody out of state bought, and they're trying to sell them, or they're trying to maybe develop them at some future date, whatever. We need to be holding those people accountable and say, look, these people are on your property. Do you want them here? No, I don't want them here. Okay, well, guess what? Everybody on that property goes to jail for trespassing. Because that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. Like David Elliott said, if somebody was on my property, I think I'd know about it, and I'd tell them, hey, you're kind of not welcome here, buddy. You're trespassing. You need to leave. And I'm also with David Elliott that it looks like hell when you have all these campers lined up on the beach. Highway 90 looks like a trailer park. I've been down with COVID, so I really hadn't left my house in about a week. True story. I actually got in my opinion, I got the luckiest break of COVID ever because I didn't have to commute to work this week. So I've been home. And I'm kind of thankful for that. I'm mad I lost 3 days worth of pay, but oh well. But I didn't have to get out in it. So for about the last week, I've been here at my house. I hadn't had to go anywhere. Last night, I actually went somewhere. And as soon as I hit DeBees Road on 90, I had to go to East Biloxi. As soon as I hit DeBees Road, all I saw was a bunch of Schneider babies in the middle of the road. And if you're not a truck driver and you don't know what a Schneider baby is, it's an orange cone. Bunch of orange cones just lined up. And then I see people in the Cruising the Coast group, which, yeah, I'm in there. I'm in there because I kind of want to see what these idiots are saying, the ones that ain't from here, ones that like to complain that our police department, oh my God, how dare our police department enforce the laws and not cater to these people. They were whining and complaining because I guess they wanted to use the inside lanes of Highway 90 for emergency vehicle use. Well, absolutely. I'm all good. I'm good with that. I think they should. But again, this goes back to the infrastructure that we do not have here. Also, You want to come down for cruising the coast? Get a hotel. Don't go park your camper on somebody's property. If I can't do it, you shouldn't be able to. If the city would start ticketing these people and holding and keeping these and making these property owners accountable for what's going on their property, assuming they are aware, and if they're not aware, then arresting these people for trespassing, we would be better off. That's how we do this. You come down here, you follow our rules. You don't want to follow our rules? Hey, guess what? Florida's east, Louisiana's west. Take your pick. That's the way I feel about it. That's my 2 cents worth. Yeah, I'm annoyed at every one of these events. Every one of them. And for those of y'all that say, well, what about Mardi Gras? What about Mardi Gras? Let me tell you about Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras parades, yeah, they'll block up traffic too. But they're only usually 1 or 2 days at a time. And they're only for a few hours in those days. And most of the time they don't block 90. So you can't compare the two. There's no comparison. Events like this need to stop. We need to start enforcing the laws. We need to start ticketing people for impeding traffic. We need to start ticketing people for parking illegally. We need to start ticketing people for violating our laws that we are expected to follow, and we're the ones that pay bills here. That's how we do this. So, Councilman Tisdale, again, brother, all the love and respect to you. Let's make this our last year for cruising the coast. It's time for it to go somewhere else. Y'all have a good day.